Eddy Troxler here once again, jazzchat.org. The website's almost up. It's really almost up this time. This is my 6th episode. I'm actually doing solo today. Generally bring on guests, and if you would like to be a guest, just give me a shout and I'll get you on here. We use either public domain or original songs. We play through them and talk about it a bit. So today I did bring my MacBook so I can throw on some tracks. But the tune I brought in is "Old Lady Be Good." It's a Gershwin tune. I think it was written for a play of the same name, and sometime in the 20s. But it's got a lot of cool stuff that you would find in a jazz tune. The very first part, we have pretty much a G to a C9. You can throw in some other chords there too, or you could play what I do a lot of times when it's a G to a C9 is I play a G6, which is I'm adding that E to a G chord, and then I have the A in there, and then I have a D. So then when I go to the C9, I just drop everything straight down. So I'm going bam. So it's just quicker, And this tune, the original, is not too fast. But if you listen to some different versions, Django Reinhardt, of course, is one of my favorites. But there's Artie Shaw, I think with Buddy Rich on drums. They're flying on this tune. And then there's a couple of other ones that I liked a lot. I think there's the Benny Goodman one is pretty awesome too. If you want to check out some different versions. And then I've always found, for me, it's good to kind of try to maybe learn these tunes by ear, and then then kind of pull the chart, and it kind of forces you to learn it. There's the melody. That's something really common in jazz that kind of took me a little while. That's those quarter note triplets. To count them accurately, there's three notes evenly over 2 beats. But if you can count eighth note triplets like da 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 da, 3 per beat. Just play like you can if you cut that in half. I think the 2 outside ones of that and 1 inside one. Bah, bah. If that makes sense. But when you're playing jazz, they don't. When I first started listening to it, I would think, or tunes like this, I said, well, they're not playing those correct. But it's more of a jazz thing. You don't play what's written, as we've talked about before. You almost try not to play the charts as written. So it's in the key of G on this chart, which is a good key for guitar players. Sometimes play it in a bunch of different keys, so that way, if somebody wants to change the key, because if someone's trying to sing this tune, it may not be comfortable for them to sing. So just be able to play it. It's not too complicated. You're going to pretty much the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and then you go to the 5 chord. But your transitions is what you get into a lot in jazz, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a bit. For me, grew up playing classic rock and then blues, and then I had some good, and I did learn some jazz down there too, but to kind of bridge that gap between blues and jazz mostly, to how to make a blues song sound more jazzy, So instead of just 2, 3, 4, could just do that. Then it goes to the 5. And that's enough. But instead, here's what we're going to do. I'll go G. I just kind of go to that 5 briefly. And sometimes I'll take that G, I'll go like a G major, that's just a G major bar chord that we all learn in the beginning, then to a G major 7th, then to a 6th. If I have like, a couple of measures to fill, I would do something like that. And it depends on, too, what's going on around you, if there's somebody filling that space. But if the space is just there, I can do stuff like that, And then it goes to the D7 after that, which I can substitute a 9, but to climb up to that, I would go G sharp diminished, A minor to D9. Then and that takes me back to that A section. That's called a 2-5. And I'll have some handouts that you can download for free on those 2-5 ones. They're really good to practice in all 12 keys. So there's that part. In that part, you would think of this as A, B, A. That's really the whole A section is that, Then so you have 2 measures. You can walk up to that other part, but not necessarily. You don't have to. Back to the A section. All right, now we have a B section, which goes from a C to a D. Then E minor, A9, A7, whatever you want to use there. I wouldn't use a minor yet. But then you go to the A minor to D9, which is my target is back to the G. And I've talked about before, I'm not one to draw you a bunch of pictures of chords, because you want to learn to build these yourself. As I said before, if we all learn these in the beginning, and we do have to. We learn, cowboy chords, learn some songs. And for a lot of songs, those are really good. And then you start to learn bar chords. The majors, the minors, the minor 7ths. But if you watch people who actually play jazz and stuff, they don't really do a lot of those. And if you think about Django Reinhardt, he only really had use of 2 fingers, so he was kind of coming up with these. Really, but a lot of times that's all you need is just because you have plenty of stuff filling in for that. And I'm gonna I have this programmed into Band in a Box, which is I use it on a Mac. I've used it for years, and I've actually I do some live shows with it. I used to wouldn't do that, but I do now because I can play as a solo artist and really fill the room. So they've gotten a lot better. I started using this program probably close to 30 years ago when and back when I first started using it was only MIDI files, which it sounded like a computer playing. But now they actually have their live tracks, so it's they call it real tracks. It's studio musicians who put the tracks in. And you can speed it up, slow it down, change the style, whatever. So right now I have it in here at about, I have it at 160, which is, that's a good speed to start with. And I'm going to put that on and play along to it. I have it 4 times through, and generally what I'll do, I kind of play the head a bit, and when you listen to a bunch of different versions of this, you'll notice they don't really play the head straight out. There's an Ella Fitzgerald version where she sings it, so that's pretty much the head. But I'll solo over it a little bit, and then I'll do some comping. Comping is when I play the chords behind it. This, I have it straight in at the top. If I were going to use this for a live show, I would give it an intro. So, a decent intro is the last 4 or the last 8. I could do which would be a whole A section in this case. But for now, we'll just start right on top. That was Old Lady Be Good. So yeah, well, if you're looking it up in the real book, most of the time you won't find it under L. You find it under O. It's OH. Lady Be Good. A lot of really cool versions, and it's a standard that we all. You could bring this to an open blues jazz jam or whatever, or it's a good one to cover. And like I say, it's public domain, so if you need to use it for your commercials or whatever, you could use it. So that and really, if you go on the website or the YouTube, if you have questions or comments, I just try to be nice with your comments. But there, and really, the criticism's good too. If you have any thoughts on that or thoughts on making these podcasts better, because I'm pretty new at the whole podcast thing myself as well. So, in the key of G, it's a great one to learn these chord progressions and stuff. And also, I wanted to mention, if you want to be on my show, I always just contact me directly at Eddy's Music, or you can find me on the internet, or the jazzchat.org it's ready. I just haven't made it live yet, so it should be ready within a day or two. And there's a blog there. You can make comments or posts. Also, another song I kind of brought in. I was going to talk a little bit about 12-bar blues, because for me, to kind of make that transition from being a blues player to getting more into the jazzy blues stuff. When I was at Berkeley, I was kind of intimidated by a lot of the real jazz players, the bebop players and all that. So I would be more like, well, mostly I play blues, or I would mostly audition for the blues ensemble. But I had some really good teachers there that helped me bridge that gap to start adding a lot more chords, because for me, I get a little, if you're just playing a straight 12-bar blues, like you get four bars of that, 2 bars of that, or back to that 5 chord. So, but a lot of blues are just that chord progression. A lot of the Elvis tunes or whatever. It's just a 1-4-5 progression. So 12-bar blues. So if you wanted to maybe add make it sound more jazzy, I can go into a little bit of that, and I'll bring it up on my Band in a Box too, that we probably. So if we take, I know guitar players, if you've just played with other guitar players tend to like E, because we have those open strings. You know what I mean? Blues in E or blues in A, guitar players love that. If you start transitioning to more jazz, horn players, they don't particularly like E and A. So trumpet or tenor sax, clarinet, they're gonna have 2 more sharps than us, right? So if we're in E, they gotta play an F sharp, which is 6 sharps, and if we're in A, they gotta play in B, which is 5 sharps. So horn players don't generally care for those keys, and a lot of times guitar players don't really care for E flat, right? But learn E flat. E flat's a pretty good key for guitar. So so if I do an E flat like that, that's just taking that C7 shape and moving it up to the 4th fret. So, C sharp, D sharp, which is E flat. So if I play that there, and my 4 chord is right there. So, and then my 5 chord is going to be there. But anyway, I'm going to do it in, let's do it in F. Horn players, they like F. That's G for them. So, they can do that, And you say, well, that's not 2 more sharps. There's only 1 sharp. No, because the key of F for us has 1 flat. So you're taking away 1 flat and you're adding 1 sharp. If that makes sense. You really just got to do this a lot. It's not like I was born with any of it. It's just they drive it into your head in music school. You have arranging, you have harmony, you have ear training, so they're all kind of this theory. And a lot of us teachers will start to take it for granted that you should know all that stuff. So just slow them down, or I think if you're just kind of starting to get into some of this stuff, make sure you know your key signatures first, because you can't really build chords if you don't know your key signatures. If I said, play a D major chord, you have to know the key of the moment, which is D. I need a D and an F sharp and an A, because there's a sharp in the key of D. If I play a C, I just need a C and an E and a G. But just to build those chords, I need to know those key signatures. But anyway, let's get into some jazzy blues. I know I saved it here, but I can't remember what I called it. There it is, jazz blues. This is in F, and so what I did, I play the F for one measure, and then I go. Sometimes at blues jams they'll talk about a quick 4. That means you go to the 4 chord in the second bar. So we're doing that here, and then we're going back to the 1, and then our next target is going to be that B flat for the 4 chord. So I can 2-5 into that B flat. So if I'm thinking from the B flat, a 2-5 of that was going to be C minor to F there. So rather than just stay on the F for 4 measures, I'm going to do this. And then I'm on the B flat for my 2 measures of that, but I can, did I change that one? Yeah, you can kind of, if you want to fill a little space there, right? Then we're back to that. And then, a lot of times at the end I put what they call a 1-6-2-5, which is going to be, which will be, if you're thinking the key of F. So here's the chords we have. I have F7, B flat, F7, then the C minor. These are just 2 beats apiece, the C minor to F, B flat. So that transition, after that F, I'm in the 8th bar. I'm doing an A minor 7 flat 5 to a D 9 or D. I'll probably either use a D sharp 9 or flat 9, because my target is this G minor. Because that's my G minor is the 2-5 of the F. You got that? I'm gonna put those changes on the jazzchat.org, and pretty much when you're playing jazzy blues, it's not so much like a lot of times in stuff like we'll throw in that minor pentatonic, even though it's a major chord, because it sounds like blues and rock. But the jazzy blues, I would kind of, in the key of F, I would stay more in that major pentatonic. Which, if you're used to those patterns, the minor pentatonic patterns, D minor and F major, you could just play a D minor pentatonic. And just kind of, if you want to throw in your major scale too, but but you do have a flat 7 in there, which is an E flat. All right, so let's try a little jazzy blues in the key of F, and we'll use the band in the box here and see. That one too. We could, we could do an ending, or we could do I guess I had the continuous loop on it. So if you're gonna use these for live, make sure under options, it says overall loop. So what it's good for practice. It just gives you a little like a short break, and then it starts right back into it. So the chords, I played through the chords a few times, and then I started soloing, but you want to, soloing is not just playing scales. You want to think about, in classical guitar, in classical music, they call it a motif, just to have something to say. So you should be able to hear those chord changes, I think, even if you're just practicing soloing. So you can hear where the chords are changing, and then the more you know about guitar, the more you could add, and you can throw in little licks. We all take them from each other. I don't practice a lot of scales these days, but I did. When I was in music school, we had to learn 3-octave scale, 2-octave scales first, and then 3-octave scales really forces you to learn that neck. As you can see, I haven't practiced them lately. So it forces you all up and down the neck. I also will give you, I got about 2 minutes. One of the simplest exercises one of my teachers at Berkeley gave me when I first got there to help learn this neck, because I think guitar players, where we differ from other musicians, like horn players and piano players and violinists even, we think more in patterns. So we learn these, we learn all these like cool licks, but we don't have any idea what we played. So learning that neck will help a lot. And a really simple, super simple exercise, just find the note on every string to a metronome, like say the note C, Then do G, right? But anyway, I only have 30 seconds left. So thank you so much for watching. And if you want to be on my podcast, my show, just contact me directly. Or if there's stuff you would like to hear or like to learn more about, my jazzchat.org should be up. And a lot of stuff is free on there. Thank you again. Have a good day.